Today we are going to take a look at operations with complex numbers. This is going to include how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide those numbers. So to simplify them, you would just like it's a variable expression, except we're going to simplify the i's that are taken to a power. So remember, what I'm talking about is if I have something like I to the 6th power, remember that's the same as I to the 4th times I squared. I to the 4th is 1. I squared is -1, so that would be -1. So we're going to simplify those. All right, so, but right now we're going to add and subtract, and you would just like you would if you were using algebraic expressions. So we would reorder, so 5 plus 1 plus 2i plus 2i. So 5 plus 1 is 6, and 2i plus 2i is 4i, and that's simplified as far as it can go. Remember with subtraction to be careful, right? We're going to distribute the subtraction. So you get 5 minus a -2 plus 8i minus a -7i. So 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 8i plus 7i is 15i. And that's as far as we can go with simplifying for adding and subtracting. Okay, let's multiply these. You could either here multiply and get following laws of exponents, and you would add, so you would get I to the 6th, or like I did in the example before, I squared is -1, I to the 4th is 1, so this is -1. Over here in this example, we're going to distribute. So 8i times 3i is 24, following laws of exponents, I squared, and 8i times -4 is -32i. Now I squared is -1, so this is 24 times -1 minus 32i, or -24 minus 32i. Okay. That's how you multiply. Of course, if I'm multiplying a binomial by a binomial, I'm going to use the double distributive or FOIL method. So 2i plus 4i is 8i squared. 2i and 5 is 10i. And then the -3 times 4i is -12i. And -3 times 5 is -15. And then we want to simplify. I squared is -1. 8 times -1 is -8. And then 10i minus 12i is -2i minus 15. If we add -8 and -15, we get -23 minus 2i. And that's simplified. Be careful when we square that 4i minus 7, that whole quantity squared is 4i minus 7 times 4i minus 7. So 4i times 4i is 16i squared. 4i times 7 is -28i. Again, -7 times 4 is -28i. -7 times -7 is +49. If we simplify, 16i squared is -16 minus 56i, combining my like terms, plus 49. And then if I add -16 and 49, I'm going to get 33 minus 56i. All right. For division, you must rationalize the denominator. And what that means is I can't have an I in the denominator. If we have a binomial, we use this thing called the conjugate. And what the conjugate does is it will, when we multiplied with the original number, get rid of the i's. So 2 plus 4i, the conjugate, is 2 minus 4i. And it has to do with the difference of squares. Because if you were to multiply these, it would knock out the middle term. 2 times negative 4i is negative 8i, and 4i times 2 is positive 8i. Right? In the second case, conjugate, we keep the first the same, negative 3, and then we change the operation to its opposite. So negative 3 plus 2i. Now in this case, we're just going to follow exponent rules. So 4 over 8 is 1/2. And then my largest exponent is in the bottom, so I, and then I'm going to subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. I squared simplifies to negative 1, so it's 1 over negative 2. So negative 1/2. Now in this example, 3 divided by 2 minus 3i, we are going to have to use the conjugate because we can't have that 3i in the denominator. So 3i and 2 plus 3i, because remember, this is just like multiplying by 1. So if I distribute, I'm just going to do some scratch work over here. And the top is just going to be 3 times 2 is 6, plus 3 times 3i is 9i. For the bottom, 2 minus 3i and 2 plus 3i is going to give me 4 plus 6i minus 6i minus 9i squared, if I've multiplied that out. So the 6's cancel out. So you get 4 minus 9i squared. Okay. I squared is negative 9. 4 minus negative 9 would be 4 plus 9, or 13. Okay, so my final answer is 6 plus 9i over 13. You can simplify. Remember, everything has to be able to be divided by the same number. Okay, now in this case, I've got binomials on both the top and the bottom. The bottom is where I can't have the I, so I'm going to multiply by the conjugate of the bottom, which is 3 plus 4i over 3 plus 4i. Again, I'm just going to do some scrap work. Okay, so 2 plus 5i times 3 plus 4i, and then I'm going to multiply 3 minus 4i and 3 plus 4i. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4i is 12i. 5i times 3i is 15i. And 5 times 4i is 20i squared. So we're going to get 6 plus 27i minus 20, because I squared is negative 1. So then it becomes negative 14 plus 27i. So the top is negative 14 plus 27i. The bottom, we're going to do 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4i is 12i. Then negative 4i and minus 16i squared. Okay. And I can't multiply because this last term, 4i times 3i is negative 12i. So those cancel. Your negative 16i becomes plus 16i, or plus 16, which will be 25. Okay. None of these are divisible by the same number, so this is simplified. Right. So today, Okay, today you learned how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with complex numbers, including rationalizing the denominators using a complex conjugate.